Have you ever met someone and felt like your entire serotonin system short-circuited? Suddenly their texts are back before your thumb leaves the screen. The compliments are painting you as a flawless angel, and this person is infiltrating your social calendar and moving into your dreams at terrifying velocity. It feels explosive and intoxicating, like a lightning strike on a dry forest, making you feel chosen, seen, and utterly special in ways you haven't felt in years. But psychology warns us that this extreme velocity isn't always destiny. Sometimes it's a calculated ambush designed to hijack your reasoning centers, so you never have time to see the cracks in the armor. We call this dopamine hooking, and it creates the overwhelming high that makes you ignore warning signs. Think of it like a steamroller. True love builds a foundation brick by brick. It's steady and quiet, not rushing to crush you with intensity. If someone loves you too aggressively, too quickly, and without boundaries, they aren't actually loving you. They are hunting a specific result. They want to capture you before you realize you're the prize. Stop getting charmed by the speed and start seeing who actually loves the person beneath the hype. In this video, I'm going to break down the psychological mechanisms of this trap so you can tell the difference between a soulmate and a predator. Have you ever experienced that terrifyingly fast rush where someone tries to win your heart within 24 hours? That intense chemical overload isn't romance, it's love bombing. Psychologically, it is a compulsive strategy designed to hijack your prefrontal cortex, specifically the judgment center, by pulling you into a tunnel vision of affection before you have time to critically assess anyone. Think of it like emotional skydiving. We don't look down until we are already plummeting, unable to see the fall, blinded by the excitement. But why does modern dating feel like we are constantly sprinting to the finish line? Because we have turned the search into a competitive game. On dating apps, a right swipe feels like securing a trophy, so we feel the immense pressure to secure a date immediately to avoid losing the prize at the end of the day. This mindset treats human beings as data points to be scored rather than souls to be known. We bypass our intuition and sacrifice our boundaries because we are terrified of being alone, assuming that the slow road is a risk that must be avoided at all costs. But falling in love with someone solely because they showed up first on the list, that is the fastest way to a crash. Think about that first meeting with the person who seemed to know your soul better than you do. It happens just 3 days in. Psychologists call this the scripting effect, but there's a darker trap at play here, the projection of a fantasy onto a blank canvas. We interpret an instant, overwhelming connection as a divine sign or a soul connection, but what you're actually feeling is a neurological rush of dopamine intended to bypass your critical thinking. You aren't experiencing compatibility, you're experiencing marketing. True love isn't a lightning strike, it is a slow, steady blooming that requires friction and time to mature. When a partner rushes you into deep life commitments before you've actually shared the boring details of life, they are skipping the foundation and trying to sell you the roof. That instant feeling of us is often the brain's desperate attempt to validate a sudden obsession. Don't confuse the thrill of the chase with the security of the bond. If they make you feel like you've met your other half in a week, take a step back, because authenticity cannot survive the speed limit. Remember that initial rush where your phone lights up with 6 unread notifications before you even blink? Or you come home to find random luxury flowers sitting on your kitchen table? It feels like you've won the lottery, like the universe is aligning just for you. But in the world of psychology, that rapid-fire intensity isn't always a romantic comedy. It's often a tactical maneuver designed to give you a quick shot of dopamine while bypassing your logical decision-making process. Think of falling in love like hiking up a mountain where the view becomes more stunning with every step you take. True love is a steady climb. When you get random grand gestures too early, like being placed on a pedestal before you've even put on your pack, it feels like you are being launched out of a cannon. It creates a feeling of debt and performance art. You are no longer a human being with flaws and quirks. You are a prize to be won. This creates immense pressure, because when someone acts like a god early on, you become terrified to fall, and will stay on that unstable pedestal just to maintain the worship. You can't form real vulnerability with someone treating you like a celebrity you've never met, because if they only love you when you are shining, what happens when the spotlight goes out? That pressure cooker isn't romance, it's a trap. Let's look at the red flag that shows this dynamic is actually about possession. Nothing feels more validating than finally meeting someone who actually sees you. Suddenly, it's constant affection, late-night calls, and gifts, making you feel like the main character in your own romance. But psychology warns us that this love-bombing behavior rarely reflects your worth. It's often a projection of their own internal chaos, driven by a desperate need for validation or anxious attachment. Think of this dynamic not as a warm embrace, but like a blinding spotlight focused directly on you. In the theater of their life, the light blinds you to flaws and screams for attention, creating an artificial intimacy that actually leads to control. It's not a connection, it's extraction. Real love doesn't aim to dazzle you into submission or measure your value by how quickly you reciprocate. You deserve a relationship that feels like steady moonlight, warming you during the dark, not a frantic firework display designed to burn out before it truly begins. Once you step out of that spotlight, ask yourself, is the person still standing there, or did they need the stage to survive? Imagine you've just chugged an entire energy drink. But instead of running a marathon, someone yanks the power cord right out of the wall while you are midway across the finish line. That is the confusing, suffocating void of the love nap. It starts with a blinding manic intensity, like hitting a sugar high, only to crash into freezing silence the second they decide they are done. It doesn't feel like a break. It feels like emotional whiplash, leaving you crawling out of a deep, urgent sleep to find your reality half gone. This behavior isn't about loving you, it's about maintaining power. Whenever the narcissist senses you becoming too secure, they pull back like a predator resetting its trap. You are trapped in a cycle of intermittent reinforcement, which is scientifically designed to create addiction. The moment they vanishingly pop back up, your brain floods with dopamine, begging for the validation you just got. You aren't dating a partner. You're playing a gambling slot machine, tossing in your heart hoping for a jackpot, while knowing the operator has already decided to cut the wires. Keep watching to see what actually happens when the narcissist finally decides the game is over. Remember that initial spark? It's that high-octane caffeine hit, the speedboat sensation that makes your heart race uncontrollably. That, essentially, is infatuation at its finest. It's fast, it's loud, and it burns out immediately if you don't constantly refuel the tank. True love, however, is not a sprint. It is a marathon. Real intimacy isn't built on the pressure to return 30 texts back and forth in a single hour. It's about the slow drift, the day after stability, where the novelty fades, and left with deep, respectful comfort. Psychologically, that initial rush is purely a dopamine chase, designed by our primal brain to secure a bond quickly. But the real glue, that's oxytocin. It comes from the safety of boring reliability, where rules are respected and care is consistent, even when you're cranky. You don't just love when things are exciting. You're learning to collaborate with someone when life becomes mundane. So how do you tell if you're just addicted to the chase or actually building something real? Let's look at the red flags next. Imagine you are tired and need to retreat into a safe space to recharge. In a relationship built on love bombing, this need feels like a rejection, triggering a frantic scramble to overcompensate with expensive gifts and excessive texts. It feels like a whirlwind trying to suck the air out of the room. True love, however, honors that retreat as a healthy boundary. It trusts that your need for space doesn't erase your love for them, creating a dynamic of roots growing deep rather than a net trying to hold you up by force. Now picture a disagreement. When a love bomber fights, they fight to win your agreement, using performative compromise to keep the emotional temperature high. Secure love understands that friction is natural. It builds emotional safety where you can disagree, feel angry, or voice a need without fearing you'll be abandoned. Psychologically, this consistency replaces the sugar rush of the honeymoon with the steady hydration of stability. It sees you as a complete human being with flaws, not a perfect partner to be maintained. It is the commitment to the messy reality of your life together. But how do you distinguish this grounded connection from the fake intensity that signals a trap? Let's look at the red flags. You walk into a room and suddenly you're the sun, the star, the center of the universe, showered with bouquets, constant attention, and declarations that feel ripped straight from a movie. It feels intoxicating, like a life-saving drug, creating that euphoric high that tricks you into thinking you finally found your deep soulmate. But watch closely, because what follows is the inevitable crash. The tactical pullback creates a vacuum of anxiety that binds you tighter than any rope ever could. This isn't romance, it's a dopamine trap designed to hook you. And when they eventually vanish, you don't just feel empty, you panic because your brain is screaming for a fix you can no longer get. To protect the heart, you have to embrace the brutal mechanics of the no-contact rule. Think of it as a digital paramedic cutting life support. You must physically erase their existence from your phone and your life. Do not slip up and check to see if they've changed their Instagram story. Block the on-ramp completely so you can actually stop the car. It will feel terrifying and raw like ammonia on an open wound, but this silence is the only thing that can dilute the poison until your system resets. You have to starve the addiction to starve the control. Once the fog clears, you'll realize true love isn't a fireworks display. It's a steady, quiet harbor. Let's discuss exactly how to find and build that safe space. At the end of the day, remember that feeling like you've won the lottery is different from feeling like you found a home. If your relationship feels like an intense spotlight is on you 24/7, it's a spotlight, not love. That overwhelming rush you're feeling, that's simply adrenaline, not the steady heartbeat of partnership. Your intuition is the fastest supercomputer on the planet, rapidly processing threat before your conscious mind even registers it. So please stop ignoring that knot in your stomach. True connection doesn't come with a ticking clock. It feels like a deep exhale while wearing a wool sweater on a rainy day. Don't mistake the fireworks for a lifetime of warmth. Choose the quiet, grounded warmth over the blinding, exhausting flash every single time. If it's too hard to believe or emotionally devastating to maintain, put the brakes on and remember what true safety actually feels like. Don't chase the intensity, chase the clarity. And if you want to learn exactly how to rebuild your confidence after leaving a toxic dynamic, hit that subscribe button right now because we have a very important conversation about self-worth coming up.